25 Japanese-American dishes shared in post-war LA Tract homes, 1950s-60s. In the brand-new tract homes of post-war Los Angeles, a quiet culinary revolution was simmering. Behind identical doors, Japanese-American families, building a new life, created a unique food culture. This is the story of resilience, community, and the 25 dishes that defined a generation. After the war, the goal was simple: rebuild, to create a new normal. And that normal began in the kitchen. These were the foundational dishes, the tastes of comfort and survival that anchored every family. Tunshashu. In an era of scarcity, you found luxury in a humble cut of pork. This wasn't the quick grilled meat of teppanyaki. This was something slower, more deliberate. The Nisei homemaker would braise a thick piece of pork belly for hours in a potent blend of soy, sugar, and mirin. The result was something transformative, fatty, savory sweet, and so tender it would melt on your tongue. This was a Sunday dinner centerpiece. The rich aromatic smell that filled the tract home wasn't just dinner, it was an event. It was the smell of family gathering, of a small piece of luxury earned through patience. Today, you'll find chashu crowning a bowl of ramen in a trendy shop. But then, it was a quiet masterpiece of the home kitchen. 2. Nitsuke. You may do with what you had, and what Los Angeles had was fish. Nitsuke was the ultimate expression of thrift. A frugal homemaker would take a mackerel or a piece of cod, and instead of frying it, she'd simmer it gently in a broth of soy, sake, and sharp ginger. The fish became tender, its bones softening into edible, calcium-rich morsels. The taste was purely umami, salty, savory, and deeply satisfying. This was a practical, healthy weekday meal. It spoke of care, of making sure nothing was wasted, of nourishing a family on a budget. You're less likely to find nitsuke in a home kitchen today, but it remains a classic, a taste of history, in the traditional izakayas of Little Tokyo. 3. Tamagoyaki. In the morning rush, as lunchboxes were packed for school, the tamagoyaki was a labor of love. This wasn't a scrambled egg. This was a rolled omelet, an art form. A mother would pour thin layer after thin layer of sweetened egg into a rectangular pan, rolling each one into a perfect, dense log. The result was sweet, delicate, and firm, yet tender. A portable protein dream. In a child's lunchbox, it sat like a golden jewel, a taste of home nestled right next to a hot dog or a bologna sandwich. It was a mother's love, packed neatly away. Today, it's a staple at sushi bars, but its true home remains the bento box, a cornerstone of a homemade lunch. So 4. Miso soup. Before the toast and cereal, there was miso soup. This was the daily tonic, the non-negotiable start to the day for so many families. The ritual was simple: heat the dashi broth, dissolve the miso paste, and add cubes of soft tofu and a sprinkle of slippery wakame seaweed. The taste was salty, comforting, and packed with that profound umami depth. This gyakum, simple bowl was a constant. In a world of rapid change, this was a ritual that connected them to a cultural rhythm centuries old. It was, and remains, the ultimate comfort. The first warm sip of the day, a taste of unwavering tradition. 5. Rice. And beneath it all, there was rice. Hakumai, white rice. It was the unquestioned center of every single meal, the literal and symbolic foundation. In every tract home, a rice cooker sat on the counter. Its steady hum the soundtrack of domestic life. Everyone cooked it. It was steamed short-grain rice, sticky and fluffy, a plain perfection that served as the canvas for every other flavor. But it was so much more than food. In a bowl of plain white rice, there was sustenance, there was identity, and there was normalcy. It was a declaration of who they were, a simple comfort that had survived incarceration and now anchored a new life. It is the eternal foundation. While you might see brown rice alternatives today, for that generation, it was always the white, sticky grains, the taste of home itself. 6. Japanese-style potato salad. You'd see it at every potluck, a bowl of something familiar yet intriguingly different. This wasn't the heavy, mayo-drenched picnic version. This was Japanese-style potato salad. Community cooks would mash their potatoes, but then fold in finely chopped cucumber, carrot, and sometimes bits of ham. The magic was in the mayo. Japanese kewpie, with its tangy, umami-rich depth that made it less sweet, more complex. It was creamy, it was crunchy, and it was an instant conversation starter. This dish was pure potluck diplomacy. It, too, was a safe offering for new neighbors, a way to say, we have something in common, while both quietly sharing a part of their own palate. Today, it's a standard at any Japanese deli, but then, it was a strategic and delicious peace offering. 7. Hambagu. For a kid growing up in the 1960s, nothing felt quite as fancy as hambagu night. This wasn't just a hamburger patty. This was the Nisei mom's masterpiece, her way of delivering a Western-style dinner that felt aspirational and special. She'd take ground beef and pork, mix it with soft panko breadcrumbs and sautéed onions, and form it into a tender, juicy oval. Then, she'd simmer it not in tomato sauce, but in a rich, savory sweet demi-glace style sauce. The result was juicy, deeply savory, and utterly satisfying. This was the sound of embracing American comfort food, but on their own terms, refining it, making it their own. Hambagu wasn't just a meal, it was a statement of belonging and taste. 8. Spam musubi. And then there was the delicious paradox, spam. A canned meat born of kaviwiwaler undi army. Rations, a symbol of hardship, became an icon of Japanese-American ingenuity. Someone, somewhere, had a brilliant idea. Take a slice of spam, pan-fry it until it was crispy and glazed, with soy and sugar, and then place it atop a block of steamed rice, wrapping the whole thing tightly with a strip of nori. The result was a perfect, portable package, salty, savory, chewy, and deeply satisfying. Spam musubi was alchemy. It transformed a symbol of hardship into a beloved cultural treasure, a taste of resilience you could hold in your hand. It was the ultimate lunch for a working dad, or an after-school snack for the kids. Today, it's a convenience store staple in Hawaii, and a non-negotiable at any JA gathering, a testament to a community's ability to make something beautiful from something simple. 9. Nikujaga. On a busy weeknight, the one-pot wonder ruled the stove. Nikujaga, which literally means meat and potatoes, was the Japanese answer to the American pot roast. A busy mother could throw everything into a single pot: thin slices of beef, chunks of potato, and translucent slivers of onion, all simmered together in a sweet soy broth. The potatoes would drink up the savory sweet sauce, becoming incredibly flavorful. The dish was hearty, sweet, savory, and the very definition of comfort. It was familiar enough for any American kid to love, yet distinctly, unmistakably Japanese in its flavor profile. It was the taste of a busy household, of a mother efficiently feeding her family, and of a culture adapting its classics to a new landscape. 10. Chicken teriyaki. But perhaps the most important bridge of all was chicken teriyaki. This was the gateway dish, the one you could confidently serve to non-Japanese friends without a single worry. The method was simple: grill or broil a piece of chicken until it's nearly done, then paint it with a glaze of soy, mirin, and sugar. The sauce would caramelize, creating a sticky, sweet, and salty glaze that was instantly appealing. That glossy bronze chicken was a culinary ambassador. It was the dish that said, "Our food is delicious, try it." It broke down barriers, one sweet, savory bite at a time. While today teriyaki is everywhere, often cloyingly sweet, the homemade version from a Nisei kitchen was always perfectly balanced, a simple, powerful invitation to a culture. 11. Sushi, makizushi, and inarizushi. In post-war Los Angeles, sushi wasn't restaurant food. It was party food, a grand communal project. For New Year's, weddings, or church bazaars, the women would gather. They'd cook vast quantities of rice, seasoning it with a precise balance of vinegar, sugar, and salt. Then, the assembly lines would form. Some would roll makizushi, sheets of nori wrapped tightly, around rice, and fillings of takuan pickle or canned tuna. Others would gently stuff sweet, seasoned rice into the soft, golden pockets of fried tofu, creating inarizushi. The result was a tangy, sweet, and textured feast, a symphony of flavors and textures. But the true ingredient was cooperation. Making sushi was the ultimate symbol of celebration and communal effort, a shared task that strengthened the bonds between families. Today, sushi is a global phenomenon, a thing of chefs and connoisseurs. But then it was a special, handmade gift. its taste inextricably linked to the sound of women's laughter and shared purpose. 12. Gyoza. Before the frying pan ever hit the stove, the real magic of gyoza happened around the kitchen table. This was a social food in its purest form. Aunts, children, grandparents, everyone had a seat in the assembly line. One person would mix the filling of pork, cabbage, and garlic. Another would skillfully pleat the dumpling skins, creating delicate, crescent-shaped packages. The process was a ritual of togetherness, a time for stories and gossip. Then, and only then, would they hit the pan, emerging with a perfect contrast of textures, a crispy lacy skirt on the bottom, a tender steamed top, and a juicy garlicky explosion within. Gyoza was the taste of togetherness. It was the proof that many hands didn't just make light work, they made deep, enduring bonds. Today, a bag of frozen gyoza is a freezer staple, but it can never replicate the warmth and connection of that family assembly line. 14. Manju. Amidst the savory delights, there was always a need for something sweet, something that connected them directly to the old country. Manju, a soft steamed or baked bun filled with sweet red bean paste, was that cherished treat. Often, it was the Issei grandmothers, the first generation, who would patiently craft these delicate confections, their hands shaping the dough with a practiced grace. Or you might buy them from one of the fledgling Japanese-American bakeries that were becoming community pillars. The taste was a gentle comfort, the soft, pillowy bun giving way to the earthy, subtly sweet anko paste. Manju was more than a snack. It was a direct, edible link to heritage, a taste of a Japan that was slowly fading for the Nisei generation. You can find beautifully packaged manju everywhere today, but a homemade one, slightly imperfect, carried the weight of memory and a grandmother's hands. Factor 15. Ozoni. And then there was the most important ritual dish of all, ozoni. This was the taste of New Year's Day itself, a recipe so steeped in tradition that to change it was almost unthinkable. The preparation of ozoni was the domain of the family matriarch. She would rise early to prepare a clear, delicate dashi broth, into which she would place soft, chewy squares of mochi rice cake, along with perhaps a slice of kamaboko fish cake or a green vegetable. The taste was simple, clean, and deeply symbolic, the mochi representing longevity, the broth, purity. Eating ozoni on New Year's was believed to bring good luck for the coming year. But more than that, it bound the family to its ancestors and to each other. It was the most important meal of the year, a silent prayer in a bowl, connecting the past, present, and future, in a single steaming sip. To this day, in homes across Los Angeles, ozoni is still prepared, with meticulous care every January 1st, a timeless tradition that continues to define the Japanese-American New Year. 16. Tsukemono. On every table, in every refrigerator, there was always a jar of tsukemono, Japanese pickles. This was the essential condiment, the crisp, bracing counterpoint to every rich and savory meal. Home cooks would pack cucumbers, daikon, or cabbage into jars with salt, rice bran, or a simple vinegar brine. The process was one of patience and transformation. The result was a crunchy, salty, sour bite that cleansed the palate and aided digestion. But tsukemono was more than a side dish. It was a symbol of self-sufficiency and preservation, a skill carried from rural Japan and adapted to a suburban kitchen. It was a quiet, daily practice of tradition. Today, you can buy beautifully packaged tsukemono in any market, but the homemade version, variable and imperfect, held the taste of a specific home, a specific hand. 17. Ohitashi. And for a simple green, there was ohitashi. This wasn't a salad in the American sense. No heavy dressing, no croutons. This was greens, Japanese style. A mother would quickly blanch a bunch of spinach, shocking it in cold water to preserve its vibrant green color and delicate texture. She'd then dress it lightly in a drizzle of dashi and soy sauce, topping it with a delicate snowfall of bonito flakes that would dance and sway from the steam. The taste was clean, savory, umami-rich, and healthy. It was a quiet assertion of a different culinary philosophy, one that valued subtlety and depth over richness and weight. It was a lesson in simplicity, served in a small, unassuming dish night after night. 18. Soba salad. But the community was also evolving, and new classics were born. Soba salad was a modern invention, a perfect reflection of the 1960s JA sensibility. For a summer picnic or a potluck, someone had the brilliant idea to take chilled, nutty buckwheat soba noodles and toss them not in a hot broth, but in a tangy sesame soy dressing. They'd add strips of egg, maybe some ham, and colorful vegetables. The result was cool, refreshing, and utterly addictive. It was a pasta salad, but not like anyone else's. This dish represented the confident, evolving JA palate, creating new fusion classics that were entirely their own. It was a taste of effortless cool, a dish that felt both modern and rooted. Mid-roll rehook. So while the party dishes were spectacular, the true heart of the Nisei kitchen beat in the hit every day, in the humble pickle jar, the simple blanched green, and the cool noodle salad. These were the dishes that spoke volumes about who they were, not in celebration, but in the quiet daily rhythm of building a life. 19. Curry rice. And for that cozy weeknight, nothing satisfied quite like a pot of Japanese curry. This was the ultimate comfort food, adopted from the British via the Japanese Navy, and now a staple in Los Angeles. It was a meal built around a magical block of roux, melted into water with chunks of meat, potatoes, and carrots. It transformed into a thick, hearty, and deeply savory stew with a unique, slightly sweet spice. The aroma that filled the house was one of pure, uncomplicated comfort. For children, it was a favorite, a weekly ritual. Curry rice was the great unifier, a dish everyone could agree on. It is a national comfort food in Japan, and in the JA home, it served the same purpose, a warm, embracing hug in a bowl. 20. Zosui. And finally, for the quietest days, there was zosui. This was the remedy, the edible equivalent of a warm blanket. When a child was sick or a parent was weary, the response was always a pot of this gentle rice porridge. They'd take leftover rice, nothing was wasted, and simmer it in a gentle, dashy broth until the grains softened and swelled, creating a soothing, soupy consistency. An egg might be swirled in at the end, or some finely chopped greens sprinkled on top. The taste was soft, warm, and profoundly gentle. It demanded nothing from the stomach or the spirit. A bowl of zosui was more than food. It was a bowl of pure care, a quiet, nurturing act of love that required no words, only the steady, comforting simmer of the pot on the stove.